What is gender? Sex is what is biologically assigned to an individual, and gender is what a person identifies himself or herself as. Gender is not binary, it is a spectrum. Sexual minorities. While sex is permanent and universal, gender construction varies from one society to another. To put it in another way, male and female are sex categories, while masculine and feminine are gender categories. Gender sensitivity, or what we mean, gender awareness. Gender sensitivity pertains to one's effort to show how gender shapes the roles of men and women, including their role in development and how it affects relations between them. Sex and gender. Sex refers to the biological and physiological characteristics that define men and women, while gender refers to the socially constructed roles, behaviors, activities, and attributes that a given society considers appropriate for men and women. Gender sensitivity. Gender sensitivity is the act of being sensitive to the ways people think about gender. Gender sensitivity tries to ensure that people rely less on assumptions about traditional and outdated views on the roles of men and women.
It is common for gender sensitivity to be expressed through people's language choice. We have the ability to use gender-neutral words and choose more inclusive language. By giving both men and women a wider variation of choices, all will be able to benefit from gender equality. Gender discriminatory words play a huge role in providing demeaning remarks against the opposite sex. Gender roles are sets of social and behavioral activities considered to be normal for the corresponding sex. These activities are generally considered to be appropriate for either a man or a woman in both social and interpersonal relationships. Gender roles affect the way we socialize by predetermining how males and females should think, speak, dress, and interact within the context of society. These roles define what is masculine and feminine. Parents, teachers, peers, media, and religion teach and reinforce gender roles. Examples of gender roles. Traditional gender stereotypes. Housework. It is mostly women who do the housework, like cooking, cleaning, washing, etc. Women are responsible for raising the children. Women have to look after older and sick people.
Girls who do not conform to stereotypical expectations can experience criticism, ostracism, and even violence. This also puts unwarranted pressure on boys who love to read, dislike fighting, or dislike sports or mechanics. Gender equality benefits both boys and girls. Benefits: allow boys to express their emotions, encourage them to be expressive, involve them in activities like gardening and cooking. expose girls to role models of women in business, especially those outside the stereotypes, like doctors, scientists, and leaders. These role models will help girls to see themselves in professions outside the normal stereotypes. Patriarch, a worldwide system that predates recorded history, and the patriarchy is the most powerful force in the world today, trumping other ideologies or political systems or religions, beliefs, but its very nature it is rooted in the subjugation of women. Patriarchal cultures uphold the privileges of men based on gender, social structures, religious practices, and legal codes. Even though men are more privileged under the patriarchy than women, some men are more privileged than others. These differences vary according to the culture with its particular class subsystems, and of course, the case based on physical characteristics like skin color and sex that cannot be changed. These subsystems can also be based on lineage, on religion, or on wealth. Women within the subsystems, however, always occupy a lower status than their male counterparts. Patriarchal institutions are these following examples. Masculinity is a set of qualities, characteristics, or roles generally considered typical of or appropriate to a man. Example, being aggressive, macho, angry, virile, and being in control. Expectation of what a real man should act and look like, but no one actually is. Biological factors culturally constructed.
Patriarchy is a social system in which males hold primary power and predominate in roles of political leadership, moral authority, social privilege, and control of property. In the domain of the family, father or father figures hold authority over women and or their children. The patriarchy is considered as the most powerful force in the world, today trumping other ideologies or political system or religious beliefs. By its very nature, it is rooted in the subjugation of women. Patriarchal cultures uphold the privileges of men based on gender, social structures, religious practices, and legal codes. Even though men are more privileged under patriarchy than women, some men are more privileged than others. These differences vary according to the culture with its particular class, subsistence, and of course, the caste based on physical characteristics like skin color and sex that cannot be changed. These subsystems can also be based on lineage, on religion, or on wealth. Women within the subsystems, however, always occupy a lower status than their male counterparts.
Violence against women. Also known as gender-based violence, is collectively violent acts that primarily or exclusively committed against women, sometimes considered a hate crime. This type of violence targets a specific group with the victim's gender as a primary motive. This type of violence is gender-based, meaning that the acts of violence are committed against women expressly because they are women. Sexual harassment. What is sexual harassment? This is the bullying or coercion of a sexual nature or the unwelcome or inappropriate promise of rewards in exchange for sexual favors. One of these would be unwelcome sexual advances, another one would be requests for sexual favors, and the last one would be other verbal or physical harassment of a sexual nature. These are other types of harassments. Common effects on the victims are these. These are how to improve awareness in parents and teachers. In curriculum or text, it is important that all text, reading material, and books be free of notion of gender inequality, as bias is embedded in textbooks, lessons, and teachers' interactions with students. Educational system. Educational system needs to be gender sensitive and gender friendly for girls and boys.
Continuation. Guidelines by gender expert. There's a need for the development of criteria of meeting gender-sensitive guidelines. Roles of governmental and non-governmental organization. Governmental and non-governmental organization can play a pivotal role in promoting gender equality. Use of gender-sensitive vocabulary. Gender-neutral language needs to be promoted at all levels and throughout the institutions for students, staff, and faculty and management levels. Educational policies. All policies, programs, and interventions need to be gender sensitive. Teacher training programs. All teachers should be gender sensitized. For the last, extra fringe benefits. Benefits must be offered in rural areas to promote girl education.
School-parent partnership. Parents need to be strengthened to identify and address gender issues in homes and in educational institutions. Gender sensitivity counseling. Gender sensitivity counseling must be made available for student staff, teachers, and parents. The training or sensitization session. Gender training must be provided for parents, teachers, staff, administrators, and local officials. Monitoring. Gender sensitivity process must be constantly reviewed by gender expert and steps should be taken to sustain the same. Allocation of budget. Educational authorities in school must be provided with suitable budget to promote and sustain gender-sensitive agenda. Commitment from senior leadership or government. Gender fair practices are effective when top leaders support gender equity and equality measures.
Gender-sensitive organizational culture. Organizational change needs to be institutionalized by promoting gender-balanced staff, gender-sensitive governance structure, and equal valuing of women and men's working styles. Gender audit. A gender audit of institutions should be carried out by gender experts to review curriculum, policies, programs, and interventions. And why do we need to use gender audits? First is for troubleshooting. It reveals structural issues. Next is for transitional moments. It establishes baseline. And to navigate gender issues with curiosity and safety. It moves beyond anecdote and displays public diplomacy. Creation of a gender-responsive school. A gender-responsive school is one where academic, social, and physical environment and its surroundings community take into account the specific need of both girls and boys. For the school to have a gender-responsive management system, the teacher has an important role to play by working closely with the school management through regular communication on classroom-related gender issues. Institutionalization of special committees or groups in academic settings. In order to promote gender-friendly and safe environment for children, it is important to institutionalize special committees such as Committee for Preparing and Implementing Code of Ethics in Workplace, Gender Interest, Sexual Harassment, and Child Abuse Committee. Gender mainstreaming. Gender mainstreaming occurred in 1958 Third World Conference on Women in Nairobi. The idea has been developed in the United Nations Development Community. The idea was formally featured in 1995 on the Fourth World Conference on Women in Beijing. Most definitions conform to the UN Economic and Social Council formally defined concept. And what is gender mainstreaming? It is a strategy for achieving gender equality. It is to end gender blindness in development process. It ensures women and men, girl and boy, have equal access and control over resources, opportunities, and benefits at all levels. Role of media. Media constantly reinforces the traditional stereotypes of women and men. For men, men are portrayed in mass media as more productive and assertive. And for women, mostly in commercials and television, shows they show that women that are flawless, skinny, and beautiful.
Continuation with language in aware. Gender mainstreaming. There are ways to adopt gender mainstreaming, and these are some ways. To elaborate, give teachers proper training on gender equality so that it will be more effective to teach at school. With the use of curriculum materials, teaching and learning processes, school structure and culture gender analysis can be conducted. Gender issues among school-parent partnership should be strengthened by parents, teachers, administrators, and local officials. Gender sensitivity needs to be mandatory for all teacher training programs, certificate, and academic courses. The key officials of both DepEd and CHED, from the top officials going down to the lowest one, undergo a series of gender sensitivity training sessions.
Teachers should strive to work hand in hand with school administrators so that gender-sensitive organizational culture will be institutionalized. Teachers should be active and decisive in promoting a gender-responsive school. where the academic, social, and physical environment and its surrounding community take into account the specific needs of both boys and girls. Teachers should conduct researches on gender sensitivity issues to properly address inequalities and discrimination between men and women. Teachers should find appropriate time during assemblies, conferences, meetings, and the like to raise gender issues concerns. Teachers should initiate information dissemination campaign on gender fair education and include in school papers articles. Above all, teachers should treat every boy and every girl equally in all aspects.